Hello. Okay, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The only Marvel movie that I've really been looking forward to this year. And that's because when that first Guardians came out back in 2014, it was the first Marvel film for me personally that just felt very different, very fresh. And I just loved how James Gunn brought this world, these characters to life. You know, very likeable characters. I liked the humour. Like, I've never been a fan of the Marvel humour, and I just liked what James Gunn brought to the MCU. And even though they still retained that MCU formula, I just felt it was always less concentrated when it came to the Guardians of the Galaxy's films, those previous two movies that I really, really enjoyed. So yes, I was really looking forward to seeing what James Gunn would do with this story, with the third movie. And this is a spoiler-free review. There are no spoilers in this review. What makes Guardians of the Galaxy 3 work for me is the characters and their journeys and their relationship with each other. How these characters are written and just brought to life. You know, there's this humanity there. You can feel it. And even with Rocket's story, which I thought was handled so beautiful. It was very beautiful in which James Gunn handled Rocket's story in this film. It was emotionally crippling, and it's because you buy into this character's journey and you buy into the character. You could feel the love behind the camera and in the writing. What I've always liked about the Guardians movies that I felt like makes them different to most other Marvel movies, and that's the care that's put into bringing these characters to life, and sort of the care in sort of just how these characters interact with each other and their journeys. You know, you're emotionally invested into their journeys, and this is what really makes the Guardians movie, especially this third one, stand out among the MCU, because I feel like what's been missing with the previous Marvel movies is exactly what Guardians 3 has, and that's characters that you can emotionally invest in, you know, you emotionally connect to, journeys that you actually care about, and it's a story that's focused on these characters and their journeys. This is not just another Marvel movie to sort of build up to the next big event movie, like the next big Avengers movie. It hasn't got any of that kind of connective tissue like Ant-Man and the Wasp had, which was, you know, it was very much Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania felt like a stepping stone to that next big event Avengers movie with the Khan dynasty, and as a result, Quantumania lacked soul, it lacked character, and it was an enjoyable movie. I kind of liked it, but you couldn't really get immersed into the journey because you didn't really care an awful lot about the characters. The difference with Guardians Volume 3, it's very much all about the characters and their journeys and their stories, and very, very little connective tissue to the bigger picture. And that's why Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 works for me, and I think it's why the three movies are some of the strongest MCU movies. I've not had an experience like this with a Marvel movie since Endgame. You know, this was an emotional ride, it was a fun ride, and I really, really liked this film. The CGI is some of the best CGI in any Marvel movie. Like, again, you can sort of feel the care that's gone into crafting this story and this film. You can just feel the love. And, you know, in regards to the character of Rocket, I mean, just the amount of care that's put in to creating this character in regards to the CGI, the voice acting, the voice talent, and just how the story is told. You know, you buy into the character because of the amount of care that's gone into the character in regards to the writing and the special effects. So it was nice to watch a Marvel movie and go, wow, the special effects actually look pretty good. But at the same time also sort of makes you forget that it's CGI. And that, you know, you're actually looking at a real living, breathing character, not something that's been created in a computer. And that's when you know they've done their job. That what they were attempting to do with these characters as work, because you just, like, I can acknowledge, or I recognize that the special effects, the CGI was quite good, but I also at the same time forgot, because I felt I was looking at a living, breathing thing that I was emotionally connected to. So yeah. And there is a lot of CGI in this movie, but I felt like I noticed a lot more practical effects being used, and I really appreciated that. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot more CGI used in this movie than practical, but I felt like there was an attempt made to actually incorporate a lot more practical effects. Like, you've got actors in suits playing these different creatures. These characters felt like they were actually on sets, and the sets felt expansive. So where they could have perhaps just gone, oh, we're just going to put a blue screen up here, I just felt like the sets were a lot bigger and grander, and the world as a result felt a lot more real, and it just felt a lot more tangible. And so I do feel like there was an attempt to sort of really incorporate a lot more practical into this movie as well in regards to the effects, and I absolutely love that, because it does just add that kind of, that world just comes alive and it feels real. It feels like it's living and breathing, and it allows you as an audience member, or it allows me as an audience member, to really get immersed into this world, and I really like that. And for those of you that have been following me for a while now may know that, I'm not a fan of the Marvel humour. I've never been a fan of it. It's very much like, oh, look at me being funny now, or, oh, look at me saying something funny now. I just don't like the Marvel humour. But yeah, I felt like they really did allow James Gunn to sort of be James Gunn. Like, I'm not saying it's completely devoid of the MCU humour, but I definitely feel James Gunn's sort of touch when it comes to the humour in this. I do feel like it was a little bit edgier at times, and just very James Gunn, and I dug it. I really like the humour in this movie. The comic timing from some of the cast, from some of the characters, was just spot on. Like, I'm not going to say it completely worked for me, but you could just kind of feel that James Gunn was allowed to really sort of inject some of his perhaps edgier humour a little bit, and I appreciated that. And when I found out that Ryan Murphy was scoring this movie, I was just over the moon. I absolutely adore Ryan Murphy. He's one of my favourite composers, and I just don't think they use him enough. But yeah, I absolutely dug the score in this film. He really sort of elevates the emotion in certain moments, and yeah, it's such a beautiful score. I absolutely loved it. At times, this movie is incredibly dark, but I felt like, it's part of the reason why this movie works. Yeah, it allows you to emotionally get immersed into the experience as a result. There are moments in this film, but I really struggled to watch. It was, for me personally, an emotionally draining movie, and that's a good thing, because James Gunn achieved what I felt like he wanted to achieve. I cared for the story, I cared for the characters, and yeah, like I said, this movie at times does go incredibly dark. I just feel like this is what the Marvel movies need more of, so you can actually feel something, when you're actually watching one of their movies. And even though this movie goes incredibly dark in moments, you've still got those lighter, fluffier tones, and it just works. Like, James Gunn nails it when it comes to the tone. And the performances from all the cast, it's just great. It's, again, one of the aspects in why you buy into these characters and their journeys. Like, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord is fantastic in this. You buy into him and his character. Zoe Saldana as Gamora was absolutely amazing in this movie. This is one particular moment where she just, again, it's a spoiler-free review, but she's just screaming at Chris Pratt, and it was like, whoa! It was a really good performance. Dave Bautista as Drax the Destroyer is really incredible here. They've all got these sort of layers to their performances, and again, they deliver the humour, but they also deliver those more somber moments. There was not one particular performance in this movie that I thought wasn't that great. I mean, everyone delivered from all aspects in regards to this movie, whether it be performances, CGI, writing. It was a very immersive, emotional and fun experience, and it's just great to be feeling that with a Marvel movie, because I feel like that's what these films have been lacking, especially since Endgame and Infinity War. Karen Gillan as Nebula was, for me, again, another one of the standouts in regards to performances. Great with the comic timing. I just loved how she brought the character to life, and I just found her quite quirky. And again, she delivers the humour, but she also delivers those more somber moments and those emotional moments. And I think some people may disagree with me here, but I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 had one of the strongest villains in the MCU as well. I'm going to try and pronounce his name. I believe it's a Chukwudi Iwuji, and he plays the Eye Evolutionary. His character is an absolute bastard, and you hate this character. This character you just end up fucking despising, and it's because of his performance. I thought his performance in this movie was incredible. It at times is a little bit over the top, but it works. And he was just, I thought the way in which he delivered the lines, you can't help but hate this character. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just how he brought that character to life, I just thought was great. It was fantastic. But yeah, you fucking hate him. He is a bastard, and he just plays the role, I felt, perfectly. Like, I don't think he's the strongest villain in the MCU, but he's one of the stronger. And I just, yeah, he did what he was supposed to do with his performance, and I really dug him. There are some sort of side stories that I felt like didn't really amount to anything, and are just sort of there. You've got Will Poulter playing Adam Warlock, and I liked what he did with the character, but again, was kind of just there on the sidelines. And so you couldn't really care that much for that particular character and his journey. But for me, what this film was about was all about the Guardians and their journeys and where they've come now up until this point and their conclusion. And I think James Gunn handled that beautifully. It was a fantastic, emotional, fun journey that there are moments in which I just laughed out loud, and that is very rare for me in a Marvel movie, but there are moments in which I just really laughed out loud. And I think, again, going back to, I just think they took the shackles off James Gunn in moments and just allowed him to really inject some of his personality when it comes to the humour, and I just really appreciated that. Yeah, I just can't stop thinking about the film either, and I just find it weird because, you know, with an MCU movie these days, you kind of enjoy it and then you kind of forget about it. But with Volume 3, it's different, and it's just nice. It felt like it did what the first Guardians of the Galaxy did for me, which it kind of reignited my interest with the MCU, and it felt different, it felt new, it felt fresh, and you didn't have a lot, you know, any connective tissue. It didn't feel like a stepping stone to the next big event, Avengers movie. It was his own thing, and with characters that felt like they were living, breathing in a very real, living and breathing world, even though this is very science fiction, you know, fantasy. So yeah, a great experience. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. There are some minor gripes here and there, like I said, with some of the, sort of the side characters, the side stories. But overall, it's a great experience. And I will be giving Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 a 9 out of 10. There are my thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think I've rambled on for a bit too long with this one. But yeah, what did you guys think? Please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Let me know. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see future reviews from a geek in Wales, just ramble on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's one of those films actually that I enjoyed it so much that I want to see it again. A second time, and even maybe a third time. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.